I'd like to welcome everybody to a brand new edition of the Adam King Show. I'm your host, Adam King, joined by the one and only Rock Breath. Welcome. We have an incredible show in store for you today. We are going to be joined later on in the segment by crypto mega player, lawyer, entrepreneur, tech genius, Gordon Einstein. Inside this episode is everything that you're going to need to know about crypto moving forward in the future.
Excellent.
But first, I want to turn to my associate producer, the one and only Rock Breath, and say, what's up, man? How's it going?
It's going really well. I'm freezing here in Ocala. It's starting to drop in temperature. Should be about 40 over the holiday. But other than that, it's a fantastic day.
Are you getting ready for Christmas?
Yeah, you know what? I'm looking forward to having a little time off with my wife. She gets an extra few days off during the holiday. So, yeah. Yep. For sure.
I love the holiday season. It's all about bringing light into the darkness. So
that's for sure.
But it is the second day of Hanukkah. So I want to wish a happy Hanukkah to all of our Maccabees out there watching us from out yonder.
That's right. Happy Hanukkah, Adam.
Thank you very much. It's been a joyous Hanukkah, and
a
lot of light, a lot of love, a lot of gifts, and most importantly, a lot of memes.
All right, good. Let's see.
Let's get into this meme segment and get into our interview, shall we?
We sure shall.
So I'm changing the meme segment, by the way. It's not just memes. It's memes and announcements and news. Okay, and I want to give a special announcement to all of our listeners who are joining us on iTunes podcast and iHeartRadio. I've just come to learn that we actually have a fairly large presence on audio only. And so I'm going to do my best to describe the memes for all of you guys so that you can know what's going on. Announcements. We have our first in-studio bonus edition coming. Emily Saves America will be joining us for our Thursday segment this week. We have a lot of cool stuff to talk about. We're going to be doing some collaboration, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So stay tuned later on in the week for Emily Saves America coming on the Adam King Show. It'll be our first in-studio interview ever, which is a big deal for us.
Wow, looking forward to that.
The SEC awards $37 million to the whistleblower who gave key information. The whistleblower.
He gets invited to the White House.
I know.
It's insanity.
She's such a snake, this one.
I know.
Laura Loomer. If you're going to steal something, make it big, says Sam Bankman-Fried. And Joe Biden says, you're both amateurs.
Oh, that's funny.
That guy went to jail, though. Sam, whatever. Project Knowledge. Let's tax the air they breathe and tell them it's to save the planet.
Yeah, right. I know.
But look who's in this picture. I mean, you got.
I know Reagan's right up in front. So is Bush.
New World Order.
Beware, but you know what?
New World
they
Order.
Don't care about anything but having money in the government. Unnecessary money.
This one I need to give a big I need to bring awareness to this. I shared this on my Instagram. As you could see, my Instagram handle is Adam Melech. And I said, why? This was just a meme by New York Patriot 1978. Why do we need cell towers every 3 miles if the president could call the moon in 1969? Very simple, right?
Instagram, we just had that conversation 5 minutes ago.
Instagram flags this post, Rock. And why do they flag it? Because they fact check me. Nixon did not need cell towers to call the astronauts in the moon in 1969. How freaking petty are they?
What?
That they would censor me for that.
What?
I got censored for that.
Oh my gosh. That's insane.
It's insanely petty the way that and it was. Look at the meme. It's a funny meme. It's just a funny meme.
So they're reading the memes now? Is that what's
they're
going
reading
on?
the meme? But that was from November 6th. So they went back a month and a half in order to censor that. And it was on my stories too. So it's only a 24-hour cycle. So it was only up for 24 hours, but they censored it from November 6th.
I'm throwing that up on my account.
Here's one. A guy that hates America traded a guy that hates America to a guy that hates America for a guy that hates America.
It's a giant loop of insanity.
Brittany Griner, they said that she was a man, actually. All right, this is some news. Classical Liberty came with the kill. Instagram shadow bans are very real. If you look at his account and how the shadow ban occurred, you could see how his interaction with followers versus non-followers has all but expanded when his shadow ban was lifted. So for all of our listeners who don't think that shadow bans are real, just look at this meme and you will see that they are very, very real.
Yeah, right.
Low effort Zionist memes. Hamas leader was filmed with a prostitute in an Israeli hotel, and then he was condemned by Hamas for doing so. But it's very interesting to know that all their Hamas leaders are sitting in Israel, you know, going to enjoying medical treatment in Israel, vacationing in Israel, while they launch this stupid war from Gaza.
That's
Sister Shanti, everybody should follow her. She's so funny. Summary of 2022, January. December. And yesterday, Carrie Lake with some huge breaking news. Our election case is going to trial. Katie Hobbs' attempt to have our case thrown out failed. She will have to take to the stand and testify. Buckle up, America. This is far from over. This is big news, Rock. This is going to be a major, major thing.
I'll say, you know, that's my home state.
We at the Adam King Show are thinking about actually heading to Maricopa County and doing some on-the-ground reporting. So stay tuned for that. That might happen.
Wow.
Another Hanukkah post. Jewish teens in 160 BCE. I kicked out the Greeks from our land and reestablished the traditional Jewish worship in the temple. Jewish teens in 2020. I twerk against anti-Semites on TikTok.
That's nuts.
Stupid. I get so sick of it, honestly.
Like as
a Jew, they bombard the internet. Like they fight the wars with memes and stuff like that. It's like, come on, do something else. Funny. Deplorable dad. Breaking report. Twitter CEO Elon Musk drops a hint that a poll about him stepping down as CEO was a trick to catch bots. Really a genius move. Yeah, Kim.com says, I'm hoping that Elon did this as a poll to honeypot to catch all the deep state bots. The data set for this poll will contain the most of them. Some good data mining, and he could kill them all in one go. Elon Musk says, interesting, I'm not leaving.
Excellent.
Elon to stay as Twitter CEO after counting mail-in votes. Did you know about this poll? Here's the poll up in the upper right. He put up a poll on Twitter. Should I step down as head of Twitter? I will abide by the results of this poll. And everybody ran in to say yes. 17 million people voted in the poll.
Oh, I didn't know. Otherwise, I would have voted no.
And mostly peaceful memes. Stunt on these hoes. He's so funny. Jimmy Fallon, anyone who wants to ban the word pedophile because it's unfair to pedophiles is probably a pedophile. Why did I post this? Rock, why did I post this? Because our YouTube video on pedophilia was taken down for harassment.
That's right. That's right. And it didn't take any more than an hour.
We did a YouTube video with Avery Williamson and Noel Cacciaturian. Avery's an NFL player who wanted to speak out against Balenciaga. And that's episode 13, which is now censored off YouTube. We got a 9-day ban from YouTube just from sharing that because we were harassing.
You know what, though? The episode's available on Band.video.
Everything is always available on Band.video, including our special bonuses, which are only found on Band.video, like my response to Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones debate.
Of course.
Big stuff only on Band.video.
Of course. But as soon as something were to get banned on YouTube, it goes right to Rumble.
Right. Shu, I like how over the weekend it was basically confirmed that the CIA killed JFK, but it was so unsurprising and common sense that we just kind of went, yeah, and moved on.
Yeah, right.
And I think that the biggest story with this, Rock, is that every director of the CIA had to have known that the CIA was involved in the killing of Kennedy.
Sure, they had to pass intelligence.
So does that mean that Mike Pompeo is also complicit in that, because he was CIA director, and now Mike Pompeo wants all sorts of perks and he wants to run, and they're talking about Mike Pompeo for president and stuff like that. But that's entry level for deep state. Dude is touching the bottom.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyways, I want to get to our interview. We got a great guest, Rock. Thank you. I'll see you in the backstage, and I'm going to welcome on our guest, Gordon Einstein.
That was great. Have a great show, Adam.
Welcome to the Adam King Show. Our guest today is Gordon Einstein from Crypto Law Partners, and I'm just going to say everything Einstein, because Gordon is an absolute Renaissance man. If I were to call myself a Renaissance man, which I do believe I am, I look to Gordon as somebody in my world who is absolutely a Renaissance man. So before we get into all the nitty-gritty stuff, I want to say for my audience a little bit about you and what you do and where we met. And, I've been blessed to have you in my life for, I don't even remember how long ago Happy Hour Mafia.
I think we're creeping up on a decade, if not more.
We certainly are. I became.
If we're talking about Happy Hour Mafia.
It started in Happy Hour Mafia, which was before a Small World. That was like the original Small World of Los Angeles was Happy Hour Mafia. Yeah. And it was founded by none other than this man right here, Gordon Einstein. And Happy Hour Mafia was like a club at Happy Hour. And it was like the biggest deal in LA for like how many, it was a once a month party. What was the final number that you got to? Do you know?
I did 40 of them.
40 of them.
And some of these were up to, this is an interesting interview topic. Some of them were up to 200 or 250 people.
They were amazing.
They were great. It was, and they were charity supporting, and they had some intellectual content.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember the invitations, but they were not your normal invitations. They were actually
not at all
thoughtful.
Very thoughtful. And there was always like something that it was benefiting. But they were really some of the best parties ever. And LA has, there's never been a scene in LA like the Happy Hour Mafia scene. In all my experience being a part of every social scene that ever existed in LA. And it was really the quality of the people that would come. And you were the host. And back then you were the president of the IP Bar Association, I believe. Am I right?
For like a flat minute.
For a flat minute. I just remembered that about you, and then we were friends and we were always social. We never went into business. Our relationship never ventured into business. And then as crypto began to blow up, I watched you blow up with it, and your public profile has just gone through the roof. And then I remember, all the different things you were doing, your fitness campaign. You were like my source of inspiration. You were bigger than Andrew Tate on out there in the world. You were killing it for everybody in your world. And it was so inspiring to watch you create crypto, go from Adaptive Sky to Gordon to crypto law partners. And maybe you could give a little bit of background about yourself for our audience so that they could hear it first from you.
Sure. I'll just kind of start from the beginning, the real beginning. So I'm a Los Angeles native, was born there. My dad was a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Air Force. So shortly after being born, I grew up a little bit in Virginia because he was stationed at the Pentagon. So you can hear, I don't have the quite 100% standard Los Angeles accent. And then after Pentagon, we moved back to Los Angeles because he's working at the Rand Corporation. So I mostly grew up in Los Angeles. I went to law school in LA at USC.
So technology was always a part of your family.
Kind of. My dad was into personal computing. This is back in the 70s and 80s. I'm dating myself. I took all my bar mitzvah money and bought an Apple II Plus. I didn't have any money left over for games, but I had the computer, so that was something. If you remember Ultima and all that fun stuff. I've always been interested in technology. It's more recently that I became a hobbyist programmer in Python. I wouldn't call myself a real developer, but I do it for fun. And practiced estate planning, business, and tax for a while. Then I broke off from law and started my own company, Adaptive Sky, which you mentioned. That's a hosted desktop solution for law firms. And then, well, we can dive into this, but I discovered crypto, blockchain, and Bitcoin in 2014 in Ukraine, of all places.
Interesting.
And that's a good story. But and then I realized, I always say my major epiphany was two things: that this area, blockchain, crypto, needed law, but much more strongly, I realized that law needed blockchain and crypto. In other words, for law to be made better, it needed access to these new tools.
Actually, that's such a great point that you made. I went ahead and asked a bunch of the big crypto players in my world to give me some questions for you, and some of the questions was pertaining to that exactly. We'll get to that in the second half of the segment, but that
Sure.
crypto, that law needs crypto for its advancement, which is you know, very interesting. So, but continue, please.
Sure. So I had this epiphany, and I came back and I talked to my employees at Adaptive Sky. I said, look, I'm going back into law because I want to work on this revolution. So, you know, big decision whether you're going to support me, because I can always shut down Adaptive Sky, or I can keep it going. And, you know, while I do this, and they're like, no, we couldn't stop you even if we wanted to, which is true. And so since 2000, you know, it was about a year of switching, but 2015 or so, let's say, I started doing law again and having an exclusive focus on crypto and blockchain, and just for an international audience.
In 2015, you're saying?
Yeah, early.
Wow.
Very OG lawyer in this area. That's why I got kind of
crazy.
famous. And something interesting happened, which is I had always had a deep fear of public speaking. I was never very good at it. I had a speech impediment, some spiritual, psychological blocks against it, if you like, but I couldn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish without getting up on the stage. So I would force myself to get on the stage and speak in public again and again and again.
Right.
As nerve-wracking and soul-destroying as it felt. And finally got slightly less nervous. Then I remember started cracking a couple jokes on stage. Now, I mean, I was just on stage last night. Now you can't get me off the freaking stage. I love doing interviews. I love talking. I love being, you know, messing with people.
Yeah.
Like I'll get up there and I'll just get on the stage and I'll just rip at people, you know, because I want direct answers. I want to deliver value for the audience. And when people are providing valuable stuff, I facilitated it. When they're being a little, you know, waving this way or that way, I'm using my deposition skills to get to the truth. So I love public speaking now. So I say, you know, that's you know, when you first met me, you know, Happy Hour Mafia, we can talk about this. When we first met, that was sort of me using being an event organizer as a crutch for the fact that I was a little socially shy.
Yeah.
You know, it's easier to meet people if you're organizing the event. You have something to immediately talk about. Like, you know, you can walk up to them and say, "Hey, I'm the organizer. Are you having a good time? Want to just make sure you're being taken care of." And that's a natural conversation starter.
Interesting.
So you don't need to be creative. You can just do that.
Because you were also such a good host. You know, it's interesting to hear that now, looking back at those years, because you were such an amazing host, and no one would have ever thought that it was like overcoming a social impediment.
Well, it certainly was. I mean, well, everything, half the stuff I do. I don't know why I did it at the time. Then I look back, I'm like, oh, if I had been thinking about it, that's what I would have been thinking. Right. You know, and then some stuff I do for multiple reasons. Most of my best life choices have been pure instinct and pure impulsive, fast instinct. And it ends up being right in retrospect. So the Happy Hour Mafia thing was, you know, widening social circle, you know, working on social anxiety, really wanting to support charity, really wanting to get my friends together. It was also an efficiency thing, because, you know, rather than going to 20 different places to meet 20 different friends, why not do one event and have them meet each other and hang out? You know, it's just time management. There's all these good reasons. So that's super. So just kind of wrapping up the crypto thing, you know, I've had a successful international practice, and I was based in Los Angeles, though going to Ukraine, obviously, is, you know, quite a lot.
I didn't know that your history with Ukraine started that early.
Oh yeah. Well, just real fast anecdote. So for Adaptive Sky, I was displaying a legal tech. I think it was in 2014 in New York. We got a booth, we got everything else. And this Ukrainian couple came up to this booth, not my booth, but the booth next to mine. And they're speaking in Russian. And I've always had a thing for the Russian language. You probably know that.
Yeah.
So we started talking, got to be really good friends, spent some time together in New York. And then it turned out that these were the founders of Distributed Lab, Pavel Kravchenko and Lily Kravchenko. I then invited them to stay with me in Los Angeles at my place. So if you can picture the scene, nice, good sized apartment, big couch. We're watching that TV show Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch, whatever his name is. I'm making steak, I'm pouring them wine, and they go, Gordon, have you ever been to Ukraine? And I hadn't been out of the country, not counting Mexico, for 25 years. I'm like, no. And they're like, you should come. You should come to Odessa. Let us show you, pictures of it. And I looked at it, I said, okay, I'll come. I didn't have a passport. I hadn't left the country for 25 years. They didn't really believe me. But I addressed all those things. And next thing you know, I'm in Odessa, Ukraine. Think about it. Silly American doesn't leave the country for 25 years, then goes right after the Maidan revolution in Ukraine, goes right to Odessa. You still see the customs house that was in flames.
Wow.
But because I did this, they organized a conference to keep me happy at Blockchain Incredible Party, BIP. And so they brought all their friends down who were involved in crypto and blockchain to Odessa, Ukraine. And it was amazing. It really opened my eyes. And then, once I got a taste of that, there was just no going back, because, Odessa is rich with history and all the beautiful stuff.
Actually, my first time that I ever went to Ukraine, I believe, was 2003. And I've been 4 times.
Wow.
And I love Ukraine. First time I ever went to Ukraine, actually, I sailed from Istanbul to Odessa.
Wow.
It was an amazing
That's epic.
trip. It was so
epic, my friend.
It was so epic. We got lost at sea. We got caught in a storm and lost at sea.
What kind of boat were you on?
A cargo ship. Oh my God. It's a short story. I'll tell you the story. So we were in Israel and we wanted to walk the path of Rabbi Nachman. He went from Israel to Uman, where he passed away. So we were trying to walk the path. So he sailed from Istanbul to Odessa, and I was reading this book about his life. So I was like, I'm going to go sail from Istanbul to Odessa. We board the ship, and the ship, I went with 2 of my guy friends, all Jewish. It's like a non-Jewish ship. Ironically, there was, they sent us to a room. They gave us a cabin on the ship. It had 2 bunk beds. And one of the bunk beds, we get in the room and there's a Jewish guy sitting there. We say, what are you doing? He said, what are you doing here? He says, I'm going to walk the path of Rabbi Nachman. I was like, what is this? What are the coincidences and the chances? I still think to this day that he might have been like Elijah the prophet, Eliyahu Navi, there to protect us. So we get lost at sea, and in the middle of the night, because we're all, at that time, you remember me, I used to have the long payas and the long beard and everything.
Oh, I remember.
This was during
you were quite the scene.
A very eccentric character at the Happy Hour.
Oh, and by the way, we have a Chabad yarmulke.
I want a Chabad of Dubai yarmulke. I need you to send me one of those. That's incredible. That's a collector's item.
Yeah.
So they wanted to know what we were doing on the boat. So in the middle of the night, this drunk Ukrainian guy knocks our door in. He's drunk. He's like, you're to come with me to the bar. We're like, what is this? This is kind of scary. Like, we were in the middle of a storm. It was wild storm. The ship was going side to side. He said, they're not letting me
actually go to the bar.
Yeah, he's like, they're not letting me come to the bar until I bring back the Jews with me to the bar. This is what he says. So we're like, we're kind of screwed. We have nothing to do. We go down to the bar, and in the bar scene, it's like total mafia on the cargo ship. And like this, the music's like, it was like a scene from a movie. And these 3 Hasidic guys with long payas and beards walk into, like, everybody's got gold chains. There was guns. It was like a scene that they needed to know who we were, because there was something on the ship that we weren't supposed to be on that ship. And the music was playing, and I ended up jumping on a table and started dancing. They had like hookers and prostitutes and strippers everywhere. And I just started dancing. I just started dancing and throwing a party. And the main boss, he looked at me and he's like, these Jews aren't so bad after all. And we stayed with them the whole time. We got lost at sea with them. And when we pulled into Odessa, everybody was required to stay in our rooms. Armed guards with AK-47s came on the boat, took off cargo after cargo after cargo, and then we were finally allowed to leave the boat. So I don't know what it was, but it was a trip for the ages. And I loved Odessa. I know.
There's a Russian mafia comedy skit on YouTube.
I never saw it.
Oh, I'll send you, like, this is like this. It's like, basically, this guy goes, you're reminding me, he goes to Russia on like a school trip, and he gets adopted by these mafia guys. He's like, I am the machine. That's really well. Okay, well, anyways, and finally, the teacher tries to get him in trouble, and they're like, I'm not going to use the word, but like, look, lady, this is Russia. So, it's like they're all friendly. I never had a problem.
They were, it was I attribute it to the Russian character because they were truly doing something illegal on the boat, and these strangers happened to pop up on the boat, and like once they saw that we weren't a problem, they didn't care. It was like, whatever, enjoy the party,
Yeah.
And it was great. That was my first experience with Ukraine, and God, but is Ukraine not made out of pastels? I mean, like you look at the landscape and the countryside and all the beauty of the country. It's like the whole country is made out of pastels. I don't want to get I don't want to get into Ukraine because it's a hot mess. I want peace for the people of Ukraine, and I want peace for the region and for the whole world, and that it's such a beautiful, rich country. The people and the culture that it deserves peace to flourish. So we'll leave it Ukraine at that and pivot into other things. So you were in Ukraine, 2015. You
14, 15. I got exposed to crypto. I came back. I pivoted my career into law.
When did you make your first? When did you make your first purchase of Bitcoin?
2016, I think.
2016.
Not immediately. Yeah, but did okay.
Clearly.
I'm now I'm in Dubai. So, but I think just to pick up where I left off, I was based in Los Angeles. I was doing a lot of international traveling. I just to get a little bit personal. So I was married, and then that kind of fell apart for a variety of reasons. Partly because of COVID, partly because of some other stuff. But then when it was in his death throes, I was invited to Dubai in the end of 2020. December, because a friend saw that I was not in the best shape, just because of COVID and what was going on with the merch and all that other stuff. And I went out to Dubai. The gyms were open.
Right.
Crypto was happening. People were friendly. Mainly gyms were open because I, gained weight through the marriage and just through COVID. And I was like, okay, thank God. Came back, wrapped up some stuff, then ended up moving to Dubai end of February. Yeah. And that's when you saw the fitness kick start. And it's been magic. There's so much entrepreneurial energy in this part of the world. It is, when I see other YouTubers like talk down about the Middle East and say they don't have anything except for oil and they're going to be poor and they're stupid, I have to laugh. I mean, it is the city of the future. And Dubai doesn't have any oil, by the way. It gets its money from Abu Dhabi. So, they're built on human activity and intelligence.
And also something that our audience really loves, the no taxes. I think that really stimulates the economy.
Well, remember, Americans are taxed on a global basis, but for everyone else, no taxes. Yes, the best and the brightest come here. They have an entrepreneurial environment that's not like at home. They have personal safety. Especially for women, they can walk down the street anywhere and you're fine. Theft happens, but it's low, and if you're not stupid, you're generally safe. The people are hospitable. The way I put it is, look, the government is what it is. But if no one's not here by choice. All right, so if you choose to come here, it's like choosing to go visit your friend in their mansion.
Right.
And the friend says, while you're in my mansion, please observe these rules. Okay, right. You don't need to be in my mansion. You're free to go to anywhere you want. But if you're coming to my mansion where you're safe and being fed well and being protected and have all this opportunity, here's some private doors. Please respect the fact that this is, a private section of the house. Please don't swear. Please don't, please treat each other nicely. Even if someone else is next door to you. I have many guests in my mansion. If the person in the room next to you isn't someone you would normally get along with, while you're in my house, at least be polite. And which to me makes complete sense. So I'm in someone awesome, generous person's mansion. Right. And that person's letting me run a business out of here. The person's is letting me, live life with my fiance here. Which is by the way, things evolve quickly.
Right. Mazel tov to you and the super assassin.
Yeah, you saw that. Huh? Yeah, she's great. That's fantastic. How strange I got more in touch never wasn't not in touch, but was able to get a concerted touch with my Judaism here in
That's
a
so
Muslim
beautiful.
Arab country.
That's
It's
such a
like
beautiful
bizarre.
story. It's a
Yeah,
beautiful
it's
story for
crazy.
Jews, and it's a beautiful story for Arabs that somebody can find their Jewishness inside of the Arab world. It's
Yeah.
it's beautiful. It's something that in the ancient world would have been accepted, and for over 1,000 years, maybe even 2,000 years, there's been so much animosity that to see a story like this, it's really speaks volumes. One for the ages that one can discover their Judaism is inside of the kingdom.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
go
sorry to
ahead.
interrupt. I mean, as I'm sure you're well aware, there was large Jewish communities in most of these Middle Eastern countries prior to the establishment of Israel.
Yeah.
And then that right or wrong exacerbated tensions between the local governments and populations and the Jews. And then you had Jews either choosing or being forced to flee to Israel or abroad. Now, that's caused a multi-generational rift.
Mm-hmm.
And right, wrong, whatever. I'm not even touching that, but it's just as a fact, the Jews of these areas left.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Abraham Accords kicked in, and then magically, in some places, it's restarting. It's like bizarre. It's like the wheel of history has turned, in a very surprising way. And it's not a furtive community. It's actively integrating with the leaders and business people in this country, and they're collaborating. Groups, Israelis and Jews, are working with groups of Arabs here, Emiratis, and getting stuff done. It's really neat.
As a Jew abroad who's watching everything there, one cannot help but have tremendous admiration for His Highness Sheikh Mohammed ibn Rashid Al Maktoum, and he is truly a visionary. And one can even argue that maybe even the true leader of the Arab people, the true visionary, the one who truly blazes the trail for all Arabs in all the other countries into the future, not just with his relationship with Israel and the Jewish people, but also with technology and with upright civil society, with fairness of law, due process of law. I mean, he's truly I know Salman gets a lot of attention as because he's king of Saudi Arabia and everything, Prince Salman and everything, but when you Sheikh Maktoum is really a tremendous visionary. Have you spent time with him?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Soon.
Yeah, he's on my calendar for early 2023. He just needs to know that I exist and pencil me in.
That's incredible.
No, I'm kidding. There's layers and layers of relationships and families and sheikhs and his and her highnesses and excellencies here, and massive commonality of names, because the names are son of this and from this tribe and blah blah blah. So to parse that all out is a process. And the funny thing is, you don't necessarily need. There's certainly a model here where you add value, get noticed, and become aligned with or partner up with or advise the royalty here. That's certainly a valid model. Because if you want to it's funny, the parsha for today, for this week, is Joseph in Egypt, 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine, like being an advisor to the Pharaoh, right? If you want to get all religious. Well, that model is alive and well here, where you can add your value as an advisor to the local government and structures and become aligned with them and do well. That's one model. But you don't actually need. It's nice to have those connections, but you don't actually need those connections to be successful here. It is, as a friend of mine put it, it's funny, he's actually Iraqi. He put it that this is a hyper competitive meritocracy. Okay. Wow. And you can have a beautiful life here if you take the time, you build the relationships, you build trust, and you keep your nose clean. Okay. And you don't need to know this shake or that shake or blah 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 blah. You can be successful. Now there is, you don't need that. Now, so that's a valid path also. I think the best way to proceed here is form. It's all that you can't lay back. You know, it's maybe someone who's born here who has all the connections because they went to right school can kind of lay back and get Habibi business, they call it, just because they
The
give you
Habibi
business 'cause they like
business.
you.
Yalla Habibi.
Yeah,
Come on.
yeah, Habibi, come to
Check.
Dubai. You know, I'm here too late to develop that network from birth. Okay, you know, I don't have anything from birth, right? You know, I'm here in the 2020s, moving fast. So I think you need to work really hard. You need to make yourself known. You need to respect gatekeepers, but also build up your brand so that people behind the gates reach out to you.
Yeah.
And through a combination of networking and hard work, you can get pretty far. To your other comment, Dev, I really respect the government here for what they've done and what their vision. You know, I think it's important to differentiate between UAE, the country, and then Abu Dhabi, the emirate, and Dubai, the emirate. They're each pursuing aligned but subtly different visions. And you know, some of them have oil wealth, some of them don't have oil wealth, and they're finding a way to live together because they really are like cantons of Switzerland. They really are semi-independent within this national system. And you know, MBS has its pros and its cons. Okay, I'm not going to rehash them all here, but I think everyone knows. But I think on a macro level, he was given a different hand to play than the leaders here. He's wasn't necessarily the initial first choice for, or his line wasn't the initial first choice for taking over the country. And that country is got a huge young population and a limited amount of oil, and he had to, and a certain family that he had to deal with, and you know, he had to play a little bit rougher, and now he's played it rough, and now I think he's more focused on the future. So he's starting from a different place. I don't know if he's any better or worse. It's hard to tell. I'm not behind the scenes with these people. I don't know what's the real conversations are.
And I know
I just know
exactly. There's a tremendous happening behind the scenes as well that is not in the public forefront.
Yeah, 99% of it. And like I said, you know, if you, I don't come to the UAE and think, you know, darn it, I deserve to know what's going on from, you know, from before it happens. I'm in someone else's house.
Right.
I'm in someone else's family house. Okay, if the brother and sister or the dad and the son are going to go have a private conversation in some other room, you know, I wouldn't presume to, like, you know, bang down the door and go, "Hey guys, what are you talking about?" It's not that kind of thing. And if you don't like it, leave. Okay, again, this is an expatriate country. 90% of the population is expatriate. If you don't like it, go. It's not like everyone here. Again, everyone here is here by choice, and there's a lot of personal freedom here. You know, there's a lot of freedom associated with walking in that. I can leave. It's the weirdest thing here. People hold on to tables, like if you're going to a buffet and you want to hold on your table, by leaving their mobile phone on the table.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and you know, it's there.
Yeah,
it's there when you get back. It's never even a question.
You know, then in Proverbs we learn that the blessing of abundance is acquired through peace. Peace is the greatest blessing of abundance. And just look around. I mean, they're killing it in every single field. They're killing it in Dubai. All my friends that moved to Dubai are doing so well, better than they've ever done anywhere else. The life, the culture, it's all blossoming and flourishing, and it's really exciting. So I want to move the conversation because we only have about an hour. So I want to stay focused and get to some crypto questions because my audience is very into crypto. Some of them have gotten destroyed. Some of them have made fortunes.
I bet. Yeah.
Some of them have gotten destroyed. But when I announced to the community, because we announced everybody coming on the show, a lot of people spoke up. A lot of people were excited. In fact, I had one friend who even said, I didn't get the actual, he's in Ireland. But he said that he's in multiple groups with you, WhatsApp groups with you, and he's been watching you, and he was absolutely ecstatic that you were coming on the show because he actually watched. He's been on the show before, so John Devine. What's that?
I recognize the name.
Yeah, John D. Rockefeller on. He calls himself on WhatsApp.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So, but I got some really great questions for crypto. For you. I want to get into those. But before we do, I want to touch on one more thing about crypto law partners. And just for our audience, anybody who needs crypto law advice is welcome to go to Crypto Law Partners. Where do they find you? CryptoLawPartners.com.
I'm easy to find. I'm loud and clear on Instagram. It's CryptoLawPartners.com is easy. You just fill out the form and say hi.
Okay.
I'm sure they can contact you and get WhatsApp. But people find me on Instagram these days. I know that sounds funny, but I'm pretty loud and clear on that.
Does Crypto Law Partners actually advise the sovereign crypto fund of Dubai?
I couldn't answer that question.
You can't answer that question. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to some real questions.
Let me put it this way. I have an extremely strong theoretical and practical interest and involvement with regulation and policy.
And I really advise everybody to check out your YouTube channel, because I did watch some of your YouTube interviews and they're very informative, very, very informative. And for anybody who wants to know the cutting edge of what's going on in crypto, there's your guy right here. So, but that's really cool. So, you are advising policy in Dubai, helping out with the structure.
And Africa.
And in Africa. Interesting. Then I'm going to just jump ahead to a different question. I had so many questions. I'm going to just jump to, since we're talking about advising policy. I wanted to ask you, one of my friends asked a question. They wanted to know what you think is the future of the U.S. and the U.S. Money supply after ISO 2022 migration. The 2002 migration.
Of course, the cleaning people just knocked on the door. I may have to yell at the cleaning people to not come in because they just decided to ring in a second.
Yeah.
Let me comment about the U.S. generally.
Okay.
I'm not happy to say this, but the U.S. dollar has long been in a death spiral, but that spiral is increasing its path of descent, if you like. I think it's really sad to see it. I don't think the U.S. is going to do well in the long term. I could be wrong. I'm not happy about it. It may get by just because everyone else will do worse, but it's just not where I see entrepreneurial activity taking place. And so with the money supply and everything else, they're just going to keep on printing more money. They can't not print more money. 2008 never ended, the crisis of that period. And we've just been hobbling along ever since then, patching and hoping. And we've moved from a real based economy, I say, to a finance-based economy. And there's an expression I use, which is when I was growing up, I was looking forward to the physical future, whether it's flying cars or robots or things that were different. Now we have a future based on the screen. Okay, the thing that, whether it's Twitter or Instagram or YouTube or whatever it is, our futures, or even in virtual reality, our futures are based on these little devices. I don't see too much of the physical future. And you can tell which country is going to do well, in my opinion, by seeing who's building the physical future. And I see China doing that. Okay, I see the Middle East doing that. I don't see Germany doing that. That was very surprising and very disappointing when I was there. I was like, I always have my mind like, Germany being this cutting edge country, it doesn't seem to be doing that right now. And I don't see the United States building the physical future. I see the infrastructure and the buildings just kind of rotting away, and all this woke stuff being taught in the schools. They're decolonizing mathematics rather than actually teaching mathematics.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, dude, you have no idea how radically conservative the world's becoming, and like dollar this, dollar that. Bless you. Long term, the U.S. is not going to go great.
So,
and to answer the question more specifically, we're just going to keep on printing money. We can't not print money. I don't think the Fed. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You don't think the Fed? I want to get you.
The Fed is not in a position to stop the amount of squeezing that would be required to truly deaden inflation is not something we can politically handle and stay together as a country.
Correct. A lot of speculation right now is going on about USDCs.
USDT probably.
Not the USD, the USC. What are they calling the one that the Federal Reserve is going to issue? The US stable coin that the US wants.
The CBDC, central bank digital currency.
Exactly. So a lot of people have been commenting that the reason why the US wants to pivot and introduce an electric digital currency is because the game on the Federal Reserve has run out on printing physical money, and this is a way that they could kick the can down for another 20 to 30 years. What are your comments on that?
I'd say that's not the case. The vast majority of money isn't printed. Okay, it's not in coin form, and it's not in physical paper form. The vast majority of money is merely electronic bookkeeping entries, and it has been for a long time.
You mean like
a long time? No, I mean just entries in bank registers managed by the Federal Reserve. Okay, the amount of dollars in circulation are not the amount of dollars that are printed. Okay, it hasn't been for a long time, right? It's an illusion that the amount of dollars in circulation equals the amount of physical cash. Okay, that it hasn't been the case for a long time, especially with fractional reserve banking. It's banks reconciling their databases. Right, so we're already now, and have been for a long time, in the era of digital money and of electronic money. When you pay with Apple Pay, okay, no one's moving physical dollar bills around, even on the back end, okay, from one vault to another. Okay, it's just electronic entries, right, and that are mediated by a trusted third party, including the Federal Reserve System. Okay, so we're already with electronic money. What CBDCs do, central bank digital currencies, is they centralize. They do a few things. The definition of it's not entirely clear, but you centralize the bookkeeping of that process, and maybe centralize the control of that process. So, for example, right, if I have $1 million in my bank account, right, my bank account has that record, and that bank account record is checked and regulated by the authorities. But with a central bank digital currency, that $1 million would be an entry on a central government database, not a bank's database.
Right.
And when I transfer it from party A to party B, the central bank, the government, will handle that transfer. It won't go through the banking system. Now, what happens if the government says, I don't like you?
That's what my next question was going to be.
Yeah, I mean, it is. They obviously have. They are going to have complete visibility. Yeah, they can. They just flip a switch.
And if they really like you, can they also just turn you on and give you unlimited slush funds for whatever you want?
Right. We call that a bank, by the way. Okay, because favored banks borrow at extremely low interest rates from the government and reloan it based on the fractional reserve system, so they get a multiplier effect, and they earn interest on the interest on the interest.
Interesting.
And so, it's good to be the bank. The CBDCs, in my opinion, are, we used to have the separation of church and state.
Yeah.
We back when gold was gold and it was worth something separate from the government, you had the separation of money and state. Right. And then unfortunately, CBDCs represent the ultimate fusion of money and the state.
Interesting.
You literally, I mean, if you're China and you don't like someone, if you don't like Falun Gong, you just turn off their wallets, you freeze their wallets. And you combine that with the social credit system, where they can't use the train and they can't get into a school and they have to wait for medical treatment, but they can't even pay for it anyway. And you got a soft form of murder.
Cancel culture at the highest level. I'm going to announce the different people who ask these questions. So Sarah asks, how do you think small players like us will be able to cash out on their crypto after the implementation of CBDC? And are they going to be able, do you believe that they will be able to withdraw in the US if they are non-compliant? Or do you think that the government will put restrictions on specific people?
I think that the US is heading to a financial crisis, which is going to cause them to become very strict and unreasonable. And even though they may not have the right to do things that they're going to do, the fact that they don't have the right to do it isn't going to stop them from doing it, because in practical effect, we, the citizens, are not in a position to stand united against them and get a timely resolution of our issues. So I'll give you a standard example. If you're accused of a crime, or not even necessarily a crime, the government can seize your property, not by beyond a reasonable doubt standard, but just by preponderance of the evidence, or sometimes even a preliminary showing. It's called an in rem warrant, a warrant against property. So if you're living abroad, okay, haven't done anything wrong, but the government wants to mess with you, they can go to a Southern District Court in New York. They can appear before a judge without you there, or you got some notice, but there's some notice requiring you to fly back, or sometimes the stuff's even secret because they want to make sure you don't abscond with your own money. You can get an in rem warrant, and now that property is tied up in the legal system. Now, on some superficial level, you have the ability to hire a judge and hire a lawyer and free that stuff up. But in real life, that's years and money, and the government has the government's resources, and citizens have whatever they have. And it's hard to pay for a lawyer when the money that you can use to pay for the lawyer is subject to an in rem warrant. They know this. Okay, they freeze your assets and they go hire a lawyer, free them up. Well, how do I pay my lawyer? So there's theoretical law and there's practical law. At a practical level, you need to move your assets and your life beyond the reach of avaricious individuals who happen to work for the government. Okay, these are all people, and these people are not necessarily nice. Right? And the standards of due process and everything else that we used to have very strong in the US aren't quite as strong as they used to be, clearly. And there's political stuff and there's racial stuff. It's just like, So my suggestion to Sarah, I think it was get a second passport, diversify your assets, don't shout, don't scream, and just kind of go dark.
For a while.
Now, the trick is, how do you go dark when you want to make a difference in the world, build families, build businesses, build wealth, build better communities? And the answer is tricky. I'm trying to figure that out myself. Right?
Sarah also asks in follow-up, she gave me a list of these questions. She got really excited.
We like Sarah. Thanks, Sarah.
We like Sarah a lot. She asked,
we like Sarah.
Yeah. Where is the safest place to hodl your assets? Is it a cold wallet? And she also asked about the French ledger company.
It's definitely an offline wallet. You do not want the majority of your crypto with an exchange. We're seeing that with FTX. Hopefully we won't see it with Binance. I think Binance is stable, but the thing about this is, even if it is stable, if enough people withdraw from the bank all at once, even the bank has assets, that you can run into problems distributing those assets or calling in its other loans or working through it. You should always keep the vast majority of your crypto in the air-gapped cold storage wallet, no exceptions. Okay, and it doesn't matter if it's Coinbase or this or that. I mean, the exchanges are potentially good for engaging in transactions. So you can move from your cold wallet to your exchange account and then engage in transactions. And then when you have your transactions complete, you pull back off the exchange. Or if the technology keeps on developing like it is, you start working with a decentralized exchange, a DEX.
Right.
That's obviously a good way to do it, so long as the code behind the DEX is good. But these DEXs do get hacked, so they're not perfect. But you absolutely want a ledger or some other cold wallet to hold your crypto. No exceptions.
And what cold wallet do you recommend? What's your wallet of choice?
There's a bunch, but Ledger is fine.
I watched Mr.
Sorry, but the trick there is, then you need to be mindful to not lose it. You need to be mindful to not lose your key to it, because once it's gone, it's gone. You need to be aware of issues like you can get physically threatened. It's called a wrench attack. There's what happens if you die? What happens if you get injured? You got $20 million in your cold wallet, and you're married with kids, and you love your wife and you love your family, and you die. How do they get that 20 million? They can't unless
they have the passcodes.
Right, and then what happens if you get divorced? So life gets complicated. There's maybe some reason for
set up two wallets.
Your money.
put some of your money in one wallet and some of your money in another wallet.
Well, it's smartly, people smarter than both you and I are working on this. There's multi-signature. There's this, maybe some estate planning tools you can use with this stuff, but you got to think it through. Ideally, you have a jurisdiction where you didn't have these in-rem warrants, you didn't have this sort of avaricious government, where you could truly trust the system to hold your stuff. If you really, really are dead, to distribute it a certain way, to act in a legally appropriate way. Ironically enough, the free zones in the Emirates and around here that use English common law, in my opinion, are to some extent more reliable, more efficient than U.S. courts. U.S. courts are scary.
Yeah, I mean, they sued Alex Jones for $2.75 trillion. How is that even real? That despite what anybody thinks about the case or Sandy Hook or any of the stuff, when you see a court giving a settlement for larger than the GDP of Russia, you gotta question what's going on in the U.S. court system to allow that kind of stuff to behave.
Well, hopefully that all gets reduced on appeal, but but then you have to appeal.
Yeah, which is expensive, and it's a whole process. And
yeah, now, does he have those assets? Of course not. It's all just a big joke. It's a political statement. And look, these are getting back to the original point I made. These are all traditional
about the cold storage.
Well, let me just say this. This stuff about how do you manage your courts? How do you manage your assets? How do you plan for this stuff? These are traditional legal conundrums that we've been struggling with for thousands of years. Do you trust the system? Do you trust law? Do you trust humans? What blend of that works? When I was originally saying that law will benefit from crypto and blockchain and not just the other way around, I think that there's software and technical tools to make law more deterministic, more knowable, more plannable, more safe. When you have contracts that are deterministic, that are based on code and not just on human interpretations of vague English language, of human language, where numbers have clear meanings and aren't subject to some judges' lack of math skills.
Right.
You can actually make much better law, much more efficient law. You can make computational law. You can make international law, because programming in Python is the same whether you're in China or the US or Canada. Right. So this is why I'm in this field, because even though I'm a lawyer, the revulsion I have towards the misapplication and unfairness and inconsistency the way that law is done, originally made me not practice law, but now drove me back into it because I want to fix it using blockchain and crypto. So I just want to get that idea across the audience that if you're one of those people that's of a builder mindset, one thing to look at is how do you make human systems more reliable and noble and predictable and efficient so that we can progress forward and not have these uncertainties, because they affect our liberty.
Right. So cold storage wallets are the way to go. That's the.
Oh, sure. I mean, you do not have your funds on exchange, period.
Do not have anything on an exchange right now.
Oh, you can have something, but
I saw with the collapse of FTX, I saw Mr. Wonderful give a testimony, and he really said that I don't know if he's just like an angry investor into FTX, or do you believe him when he says that Binance kind of strategically took FTX down, or is he just?
We're talking about Dennis Leary?
Yeah.
Or who are we talking about?
Dennis O'Leary.
It's I barely watch him. He never did it for me. No, I don't believe it. I mean, if you
FTX was a scam. It was a total.
They're commingling client funds. They had no internal controls.
He had no controls over the book.
Look at them.
I know.
I mean, look at that woman who's running Alameda. It's just like, oh my God. And then you read your private emails. You're like, oh God, cringe. It's like, they're dealing with money that, if properly deployed, could build cities. Okay, I mean, or we're dealing with money that could have trained tens of thousands of engineers.
Right.
And it's all just, they're not cool, they're not hip, like I love young entrepreneurial energy. I don't knock it, and I think every generation, everyone has iconoclasts who come in there, say F you to the system, change the way things are done, Steve Jobs or whoever. And God bless them. But to be iconoclastic and nonconformist just to put up a show, which is what I think they were doing, and just to kind of stick it to the system without having a viable alternative, it's what we all get excited about. Like, look at these ruffians. They showed up to meet with the VCs in pajamas. They really showed them who's boss. Yay. It's like, that Zuckerberg thing is like, give me a break. I don't care about that stuff. I want to go to Mars.
Right. Exactly.
And how much of the positive forward momentum of what crypto and blockchain has to offer dissipates because of these fools at Celsius and FTX and the rest of it. It makes me sick. And I don't want them to be regulated. I want this stuff to be written in code.
Do you think that do you think that this whole thing is a controlled collapse to kind of like allow the Fed and the SEC to say, oh, look, we need regulations on crypto? And so they kind of like if you look at the connections between Gary Gensler and Sam Bankman-Fried and Caroline and all, it's a very incestuous little circle there.
I mean, in more ways than one.
In more ways than one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think. No, I mean, sometimes conspiracies end up being real, but a conspiratorial mindset is usually a sign of a problem in the person who has that mindset. No, I don't think it's some big orchestrated thing. I think that he had some weird relationships. I think he had a ton of donations to Democratic political people.
Right.
You had the New York Times, writing weird softball articles about how Sam Bankman-Fried's, philanthropic ventures were taken down by his, it's like, no, he's a criminal and a thief and a jerk, actually.
Have you met him?
So casual. No, he's a jerk for taking in so much of other people's money and treating it in a cavalier, non-serious manner.
Such a cavalier way, exactly.
Yeah, I don't need to meet him until he's a jerk.
Yeah, no, he's.
Okay? I don't need to go to Mongolia to know that Mongolia exists.
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't need to go to Mongolia to have Mongolian beef, man. That is one dish, man. Give me some Mongolian beef. Waiter, please, Mongolian beef over here.
Yeah, give me some of that, yak action. But I mean, we're talking about. Go ahead.
Speaking of the FTX collapse, Vegas just announced a crypto predictions for the next crypto collapse. And I wanted to get your take on this because I think it's quite alarming that they're putting up these odds on which crypto exchange is going to collapse. These are actual bets going on in Vegas right now. And Coinbase is obviously the best odds of staying. Binance, they're saying that Coinbase is Vegas is saying Coinbase. I think that this is a great way to kind of gauge the safety and security of different exchanges. That Coinbase is the safest and crypto.com is the most risky. So what's your thoughts on that?
I think it's pretty funny.
It is funny, but there's money being transferred and gambled on this assumption. So it begs the mind to be inquisitive.
Yes, it does. I mean, these prediction markets are freaky because they often end up being extremely right in ways that you wouldn't expect. The danger is that sometimes the prediction market actually ends up influencing actual events in a way that those events wouldn't necessarily unfold in the absence of a prediction market. So, if everyone believes, if a prediction market, it's one thing to think a bank is going to collapse, but if a prediction market predicts that bank is going to collapse and people start spending or gaining or losing money based on that, it can actually make the bank collapse when the bank wouldn't have necessarily collapsed before. Right. Like the prediction markets actually affect the events that they're predicting. So, it's like, on one hand, they're super, they kind of become self-fulfilling prophecies. It reinforces the idea that you need to be self-custodying your crypto. Now, unfortunately, that slows adoption, right? Because the people who can set up a Coinbase account are not necessarily the same people who can maintain a cold wallet. Because, we're all, operating with, a Chinese kid can do it when he's 2 years old, but you show an American 18-year-old and they're like, wait, you mean I actually have to read the instructions? So, self custody is a fantastically simple action, but it's hard for people who don't have the attention to watch a 3-minute video. So, when you do self custody, you're unfortunately going to cut back on adoption, but it's the safest thing to do. And until we have truly reliably regulated exchanges in countries that don't avariciously smack down and seize crypto, you got to keep it off the market. And it's sad because when you have crypto on exchanges, you have a lot of liquidity. You can get accurate price discovery. You can, don't need to have, you don't need to know the person you're selling to or go through an over-the-counter facility. But we're seeing what happens. They got jerks like FTX.
What do you think about HBAR's claim on their website that they're owned by the U.S. government?
I don't even know about that. Tell me.
You don't know? I don't know much about it either. It's one of the questions from the audience that HBAR supposedly claims on their website that they're owned and governed by the U.S. government. I don't know if that's true or not. Could be not true.
Well, let's do a little Google. Maybe they're referring to something else, huh?
I love technology that if you don't have an answer to a problem, you just turn your head, Google, and
Hedera Global Governing Council, maybe? Oh, maybe HBAR is working on digital. Okay, Hedera rumor. I just Googled it, by the way. It says, this is from 21. Rumor, Hedera, HBAR working on digital dollar with central bank. I don't think Hedera is owned by the US government. I'd love to get a link saying that. I don't think any of these projects are owned by the US government.
So moving on with that, there's not so much that differentiates each individual coin. A lot of people are predicting the end of BTC and Ethereum. A lot of people are thinking that the bottom is a lot further down than people would like to have seen. What do you think? Do you think we've reached the bottom of BTC, or is there still yet bottom to happen?
Okay, there's two separate. Let me unpack what you said, because you probably saw my body language.
Yeah.
The end of the stuff, hardly. What does end mean? Is the Bitcoin network going to stop functioning? No. Okay, well, people keep on mining to produce proof of work and validating transactions and creating new Bitcoin. I really doubt it. Okay, remember the Bitcoin mining complexity algorithm self-adjusts so that new Bitcoin blocks come out every 10 minutes or so. So if there's a lack of hashing power on the network for a certain period of time, the mining algorithm gets easier so as to incent miners to stay in the game. It takes less effort to earn Bitcoin. When more and more miners come on and blocks are getting mined too quickly, like less than 10 minutes for a consistent period of time, the complexity, the difficulty of the algorithm goes up. So there's Satoshi and crew were very clever in designing Bitcoin so that even if there's moments where it looks like the miners are capitulating and not doing their mining, if you stick it out, it gets easier and you make more Bitcoin. Okay, and if Bitcoin wasn't dead last time at 500, why would it be dead now at 16,000? Why? Is it, if the algorithm can make it progressively easier to mine it, so that people stay interested, it makes sense. The statement it's dead or has a problem makes sense.
So the answer is Bitcoin and ETH are not dying. They're just
they're different animals. So let me tease it out. BTC might have a problem because the technology is a bit stagnant. But maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that makes it reliable. A lot of the stuff changes a lot. Though now getting to Ethereum, case in point, the technology changed, right? It was proof of work, and now it's proof of stake. And so it may have gone from something that people generally agreed was not a security, maybe it became something that's a security. Maybe now it's being run in a fuzzy, strange way that's environmentally friendly, but it's not quite as rigorous as Bitcoin was. But then again, now we're burning Ethereum in some cases, so it's deflationary. So I think we're building cool stuff on Ethereum. There's a huge development community out there. It seems to matter. So I don't, in my opinion, crypto's time hasn't passed. Now, things like AI and all this other stuff are certainly interesting, and people are like, oh, I'm leaving crypto, I'm going to AI. The illusion that these things don't all work together, to me, is funny.
Right. They do work
All right.
together.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Tremendously.
genetics and biotech work with this stuff. You just,
I can't
these are
imagine the
just building
first
blocks.
AI cities are not going to be built on blockchain technology.
Yeah. The question was, are they going to use cryptocurrency? I don't know, but are they going to use blockchain? 100%.
Do you think that Bitcoin will ever be safe to be used in DeFi?
That's a really good and technically complex question. So
That's a question from Robert, actually. Robert asks, I'll read his full question to you and you can address it. What are the risks of Ethereum being labeled as a security? As I believe BTC is the backbone of most cryptocurrencies in general. We mainly got WBTC we can use in DeFi. I suppose we got smart contract risks. Do we know how safe this is? Will there be safer implementations? And will Bitcoin ever be able to be safely used in DeFi?
okay, so we like
question,
Robert.
right?
Fantastic questions. Okay, let me take it step by step. There was a general consensus that Ethereum was sufficiently decentralized. Gensler himself said this in his Gary Plastics speech. You can Google it. Gensler said in Gary Plastics, I think it was privately to Yahoo, that Ethereum appeared to be sufficiently decentralized that even if it started off as a security, it probably wasn't a security now. Because when you have a security, you need what's called a common enterprise. That's one of the 4 prongs of the Howey test, which is the most famous legal test for whether or not something is a security. Investment money for a profit in a common enterprise where the efforts are from the result of that, where the profits are from the result of the efforts of others. If something's decentralized, you don't have a common enterprise. So there's an argument that Ethereum and Bitcoin were not were on proof of work, which is decentralized, and so it's not a security. Now Ethereum has moved over to proof of stake. So rather than mining and solving complex math problems to publish each new block, there is a consensus on the network about what's right and what's wrong, and you basically bet or stake your Ethereum to back up that you're going to be a good actor on that network. Well, that kind of creates an opportunity for collusion and centrality of control that didn't exist before. So Ethereum may be a security, but I think on a practical level, it'd be so disruptive and so negative for the industry to make it a security that the SEC may hold back on Ethereum, but not hold back on others. Now, to your next question, DeFi is 99% built on Ethereum and Ethereum-like chains. So whether it's Ethereum itself, whether it's Binance Smart Chain, whether it's all these Ethereum copies, Ethereum is, DeFi, decentralized finance, is sort of Ethereum baby, and and also progeny. You can do basic scripting on the Bitcoin blockchain, but you do not have the rich smart contract, as far as I understand it, logic that's available on Ethereum and its more or less accurate copies. So DeFi certainly lends itself to Ethereum much more than it lends itself to Bitcoin. Now, a lot of the value, the majority of the crypto value out there is in Bitcoin still, until there's the flipping between Ethereum and Bitcoin. So to unlock the liquidity that's in Bitcoin, of course, you have wrapped Bitcoin. You have, you deposit your Bitcoin with some trusted entity, you think, and they issue an Ethereum-based token, a WBTC, wrapped Bitcoin, in place of that Bitcoin. And then when you have wrapped Bitcoin, this Ethereum token that's equivalent to Bitcoin, then you can use that to make deposits or engage in decentralized finance transactions. But of course, there's an issue there, which is when you deposit your Bitcoin with someone else and get a wrapped version back, you're now trusting that institution to hold on to your Bitcoin, not give it to government, not go bankrupt, not pull an FTX, Sam Bankman-Fried move, and actually keep that Bitcoin safe, keep it wrapped, and make it exchangeable back when you want to. And you're happening to go through your KYC, your customer process, usually when you wrap your Bitcoin. So you're going back to having to trust institutions and centrality, things that are points of attack for malicious actors. And sometimes the malicious actor is the institution itself. We saw that with FTX. FTX wasn't attacked from the outside. FTX was the malicious actor.
Right.
If CZ from Binance points out that they're a malicious actor, that doesn't make it CZ bad. Right? He's just pointing out reality. Right. So if we're going to have truly strong regulated institutions that stand apart from the government, or in a jurisdiction where the government behaves and knows what's right, issuing reliable wrapped Bitcoin, then I would hope that liquidity could get unlocked. Then, of course, you have the usual issues about whether your DeFi platform is secure. We keep on seeing hack after hack after hack of these DeFi platforms. So my hope and goal is that the contracts will eventually become machine ridden and well vetted, so that these tools become reliable. But they're not there yet. But I've played with this idea of wrapped Bitcoin. I'd really like to see somehow the Bitcoin networks and Ethereum networks merge in a non-hacky, reliable way.
Interesting.
So that there was some kind of native functionality that I could trust. Maybe there's some project out there I don't know about. There's some native, polychain functionality that can move assets back and forth between these chains in a way that did not require a third-party intermediary, that was just computationally secure. Maybe that exists, and I haven't seen it, but that would be the real answer.
But it seems like the two are inextricably bound. That BTC is almost nothing with in that case. That you could trade a native BTC on AMM or CLOB or DEX, and without the two, the functionality just is not there. So it's almost like BTC and ETH kind of go hand in hand at some point. Would you agree?
They should go hand in hand.
And I know that Michael Saylor, he explains that ETH is really the security, whereas BTC is the commodity. And did you hear him talk about that?
So it is the consensus. It is the consensus in the world right now, including the United States, that Bitcoin is a commodity. Michael, it is in no way the consensus that Ethereum is a commodity or security. It is subject to active debate. And I come down on the side that Ethereum is barely not a security, but they really expose themselves to danger by going to proof of stake, though I certainly understand why they did it, including for environmental reasons. It's not necessarily the case that these things need to merge, BTC and Ethereum, for the benefit of humanity. Sometimes there's benefits in keeping things separate. Maybe Bitcoin, all it's meant to do is provide a reliable way to store value over time. And its sort of backward nature is good in a way, because you don't want to innovate with things that are storing your value. You just want your value. Maybe that's good. But the problem is there's just so much value there that it'd be nice to get that working in the financial markets through the Ethereum tools. But maybe there needs to be a truly effective smart contract layer on top of Bitcoin. Who knows? I mean, Bitcoin development is kind of stalled out, in my opinion. It's a little bit of a shame, but I understand. But it's also maybe a feature because it makes it a little bit more reliable.
It's also, it as a practical commodity, Ethereum is just traded so much more than Bitcoin for basic transactions. Just from what I see, I mean, MetaMask uses Ethereum, not Bitcoin, for all of its functions, and Bitcoin just has from my experience, has slower hashes. So, but to kind of
remember, they're doing two different things. You don't want to compare an elephant with an eagle.
Interesting.
Okay, they're not meant to do the same thing. It's like you don't compare a foot and a hand. Okay, so Ethereum is doing smart contracts. Bitcoin is storing and transmitting value. Okay, I don't need to be storing and transmitting value as much as I need to do day-to-day computational work. Okay, it doesn't need to do all that while they're separate. And Ethereum is kind of a muddied situation because it's meant to power these smart contracts, yet the token has value, so people use it as an investment. It's a confusing thing. Like, is it this or is it this? And the fact that it fluctuates up and down based on investment interest actually interferes with its ability to be a good source of, or to power these smart contracts. Because there's a real period where the fees on the Ethereum network were so high and intolerable, and it was so slow and congested that you couldn't really get anything done on Ethereum, whereas Bitcoin didn't have that issue.
So where do you see, yeah, I understand. Where do you see, with all the different coins that are out there and everything, all the different values that each one has, who do you see emerging as like a true stable coin that the market could bank on as a stable, as a more stable, coin? Is it HBAR? Is it XLM? Is it,
So let's be real clear. There's stable coins and not stable coins are just when you have a stable coin, what you're saying is that this thing's going to be consistently exchangeable for something else at a set ratio, if you like, over time. There needs to be some reference asset. Okay, so USDT, US dollar token, or USDC, US dollar coin, are mapped, we think, 1-to-1 with the US dollar, and they're sort of euro equivalents. Okay, or you can theoretically have a stable coin that's exactly references 1 gram of 99.99% gold. Right. It's always in reference to something else. Right. To have a stable coin that's not referenced to anything else doesn't make any sense. It's not stable versus what. Right. So I think USDT and USDC are reasonably reliable and trustworthy. There's always a question about both of them for different reasons. Whether it's USDT having true dollars backing up their tokens, or USDC, they can block and freeze wallets and transactions. Or USDT can also. We already have pretty good stable coins that are asset backed. What Terra was trying to do with USD, or the Terra dollar before, was having an algorithmic stable coin that, not just through strict backing, but through mechanisms of the market, was going to have a consistent value over time. Algorithmic stablecoins are very hard to make and hard to keep in place over time, because things happen, black swans occur. So I don't theoretically it can happen. I don't know if it will happen. When you're talking about something like BTC, it's not a stablecoin. BTC doesn't exist in reference to anything else, nor does Ethereum. It just is. BTC is not meant to be an alternative dollar, alternative gold. Okay, it doesn't even know those things exist. It's just a computer program running on a bunch of computers. I think once we wrap our heads around the idea that it's not that BTC is worth something in dollars, it's that dollars is worth something in BTC, that BTC is the reference point, like we kind of think that US dollars are the reference point right now, then it'll become stable, because 1 BTC will always equal 1 BTC. And everything will be traded in reference to it. It would be, how many barrels of oil can you get for one Bitcoin? Right. So that's a more macro play. When Bitcoin becomes the one point of reference, everything else will get priced in BTC. Whether that's actually going to happen in real life, I don't know. It's highly questionable, but I hope it happens.
So with so many, it is something that I think everybody hopes happens, that BTC becomes the basis for the entire system. But with so many different coins and so many of them, they do so many of very similar features, but with slight differences. What coins do you see stick out in the market, and what are their real values? What are the coins that you're most fond of these days?
Well, there's coins there's cryptocurrency, and then there's tokens that do stuff. Cryptocurrency is to buy and sell and hold value and just act as a replacement for fiat. In my mind, for the most part, Bitcoin's the only game in town, unless you're looking at privacy's functionality, like, for example, with Monero.
I was going to ask you about Monero.
Yeah, Monero is having a renaissance now, because as governments get overreaching, people are kind of like, I don't want you to follow what I'm doing. Privacy is a normal human value. and this whole thing about if you have nothing to hide, you might as well share it is a bunch of BS. Okay, the government, it's always the people. When the police say that, you're like, fine, you send me all your personal information. Well, I'm not the, I'm the one asking questions here. They never reciprocate. When they say you have nothing you can hide, tell us everything. It's like, well, fine, you too. Oh, really? Is that your wife? Is that your girlfriend? So the Bitcoin is by far, BTC is by far the best cryptocurrency. And I'd love to see Monero type privacy incorporated in it. We kind of can get that through tumblers and through this other stuff, but the US government's being nasty to that, like Tornado Cash and other platforms. But that would be the ideal situation. Distinguish that in your mind from tokens, okay, such as the Ethereum token or Ethereum copy tokens. Those may have value because they're useful, but they're not designed primarily to have value. They're designed to power, gain access to what these blockchains, these underlying blockchains offer. Okay, Ethereum's value is a side effect of its functionality and what people think it's going to do in the future, plus speculation to make more money than the next guy.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not. When I look at these coins and when these change, my fundamental question is, what are these blockchains doing now? What will they do in the future? Is that useful? Would I pay for that? And that thing that I'm going to use to pay for it, what are the economics of that thing? It's like a country. It's like, if I go to Dominican Republic, do I want to go there? Do I want to stay in a hotel there? Do I want to eat the food there? Or do I want to go to Ecuador? Okay, and if I want to go to Dominican Republic, then the currency they use there becomes more interesting to me because I need it to spend there. And if I'm going to Ecuador, that currency becomes more interesting to me because I want to go there and spend there, right? And so it's like, oh, Ecuador's nice, but look at this. They, are printing double the amount of pesos every year. Well, that affects my decision to buy it, even if I want to go to Ecuador. So it's the value, essentially, like each one of these blockchains is its own country. And you can choose which country to visit. And all these countries are competing against each other with the features and benefits. Do you
have a favorite country to visit, token wise?
I am a frequent flyer. So I like
frequent flyer of many different tokens and many different airlines.
I am. And you know what? I like it. I mean, just to extend the analogy, I like it when these countries hire me, fly me out, put me up in hotels and pay me in their token.
That's cool. That's very cool.
I'm not a big fan of buying stuff. I'm a fan of getting paid.
That's actually very cool. So I have one more question, two more questions for you actually. Sure. The one of my followers who's in 3 groups with you, Kryptonite Warriors, Axe Capital, and NFT DeFi. Out of these 3 groups, what is your favorite out of these 3 groups?
You really think I'm going to do that? Because I know who runs each one of these groups.
How do I get myself in these groups? This is what my real question is.
Well, then I can introduce you and add you. That's not a problem, man.
Okay. Are we going to start a happy hour?
Very active.
Is there going to be a happy hour mafia crypto group for the old school?
In Dubai, I'm not doing anything called happy hour or mafia.
Exactly.
That would be kind of a mistake. It's more like good boys and girls in Dubai.
So yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, why not join all?
I'll join all of those.
They're in all 3 to see what you like.
I would love to.
Just try.
And
I have to say, just real fast, when I got here 2 years ago, I'm one of the first guys who started one of these groups. I have UAE Crypto Life. Then I have to say I got some admiring copycats, but I don't have an exclusive on the idea. So it's nice to see these groups.
I got some really good crypto friends. I'm sure they would all love to be in your groups. They were all super excited about you coming on the show. Some of them I've introduced you to, like my buddy James Smith. Sure. I introduced you to I think, do you know Jason Teutsch by any chance?
Yeah.
I've been trying to get him to come on. Amazing guys. He was a party animal too, that guy. He used to go, that guy, believe it or not, he had some fun back in the day. But my last question that I have for you, What kind of strategic advice do you think you could give to serious crypto players who are out there that have their money on cold wallets, that are not on the regulated systems, that want to avoid taxes? What is the best strategy to how to bring your money back into the system if you were one of the few who got to be able to have their money out of the system on time, and that the money exists outside of the system? How do you bring it into the system safely without the IRS or governments coming in and trying to snatch up all your booty?
I'm not going to answer that question because that's asking for it, but I'll say in general, read and look at nomadcapitalist.com, and there's also lots of stuff online and at Amazon about how to organize your affairs. You want to think about being a sovereign individual, that's the name of a book. You want to think about 5 flag theory. Most of the time, it's not correcting what you did in the past, it's planning for your future affairs. Okay. And I'd say that if you're not American, move to Dubai and enjoy the tax structure here.
And if you are American, they don't offer dual citizenship?
Well, they do, but you as an American are taxed on global income regardless of where you reside.
Right.
Isn't that great?
Good old American socialism at work.
Yeah. Well, we gotta protect the oil for some,
Yeah. Don't drill the oil. We have to protect it for future
for future Chinese.
For future exactly. More lithium batteries. So we covered a variety of topics. This was so rich. I would love to have you back on a million times. You are such a wealth of information, and
Thank you.
people look at you as a wealth of information of crypto, and it's so nice, to see that. But you're also such a wealth of information for so many other things, including Ukraine, including all these other amazingly important topics of discussion. So I'd love to get you back on the show for some of those too in the future.
Sure.
But in closing out, what do you see for 2023 and I don't want to talk about the halving in 2024, but 2023, the year before the halving, like departing wisdom from the divine Einstein. I should coin that. That should go around the world, and people should start introducing you at speaking events as the divine Einstein, just so I can get credit for that.
Please don't do that.
What do you see? What is 2023?
Well, I got some life philosophy that I think answers your question, which is always be creatively building. Okay, always be creatively building, no matter what. Crypto up, crypto down, crypto left, crypto right, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't matter. Okay, always be creatively building. Always be adding value and getting paid for your value. And then you don't need to worry about this stuff. Okay, you don't. I'm not in a position to give financial advice. Okay, but my financial advice is earn and keep. Right, because there's artificial intelligence out there already that's much smarter than we are when it comes to this trading stuff. I wouldn't. Who am I to compare to 20-year-olds sitting behind screens with algorithm, AI informed algorithms that are learning all the time in neural networks? I have nothing to say about that. But I'll tell you something: earn and keep. Do good, get paid for doing good, keep what you make, reinvest. Done. Yalla.
That is such a beautiful way to close out the show. Earn, keep, reinvest. I love that strategy, including the Yalla Habibi at the end.
Yalla Habibi, Yalla.
After you're done, after you earn and after you keep, and you see that statement, you say Yalla Habibi.
Yalla. Yeah, thank you, God.
Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for this wonderful interview. Thank you, Gordon Einstein, for joining us today on the Adam King Show. I want to thank all of our wonderful listeners, all of our proud supporters and partners, our distributors on Band.video, on all the different platforms. We just found out that we're also on iHeartRadio today. A fan called me and they said, hey, can you get an iHeartRadio account so I could listen to you in the car?
Nice.
What do you know? We're already on iHeartRadio. So
you're doing great, my friend.
The show is moving up, and you were a phenomenal guest. And thank you again so much for all this wonderful advice. I'm sure this information is going to go viral in a lot of very important communities where it needs to be heard. So once again, please check us out at theadamkingshow.com. You can find Gordon's profile at theadamkingshow.com under the guest tab, and there will be links to Crypto Law Partners or whatever else Gordon wants to share. Hopefully his YouTube channel, which has a tremendous wealth of information. Again, everybody have a wonderful Hanukkah. Christmas is coming, so don't get jealous, all you happy Christians out there, because your turn is next. Thank you for tuning into the Adam King Show. God bless and good night, everyone.